You know how some people have that embarrassing fact about their life that they really don't like to admit? Well, this is mine. Wataten, my first anime. Yeah, I was one of them that I didn't start with Attack on Titan. I didn't start with Demon Slayer. I started with Wataten. In 2020, August of 2020 to be exact, my first anime was this. Now, you might be asking, why did you start with this? Of all things. Well, I saw a YouTube meme and I thought it was funny. And there was another anime that we'll get to eventually. And between those two shows, I was convinced to sign up for a free trial of Crunchyroll, and this was the one that I watched first. I watched it for the memes, but it hooked me enough that I decided to renew my subscription and get full force into anime. That really doesn't explain why I kept watching it. Why did I watch one episode, say, oh, that was funny, and then move on? Because, surprisingly, this show is not as bad as it seems from just looking at all of this. So the show follows our three main protagonists over here, and then Miyako. Miyako is the older sister of Hinata. So that's why she has this. And one day, Hinata brings over her friend Hana, and Miyako gets obsessed with Hana, and Miyako, being a shut-in college student, decides her passion in life being cosplay, she would like to use Hana as pretty much a dress-up doll because she thinks she's very cute. So, our story begins. Later on in the story, we get the introduction of Noah here, which is a third protagonist of the show. There's also two more. We're just going to focus on these because I could get into a long discussion on all the characters and why I really like it, but I'm going to try to keep these short. So the main complaint I've seen from people about this show is it is very suspicious about the relationship between Miyako and Hana. Now, I don't really want to get into this a ton because I would like to save my big discussion on that for whenever I finally get to the movie. Yes, this got a movie sequel. And it does explain this relationship a lot better, and I think it really tells you it's not as suspicious as you want to make it out to be. This is one of those shows, though, to where there is no male characters in the show at all. Now, obviously, they exist in the world, but they just are not shown. So it makes it more suspicious whenever she is only hanging around 10-year-old girls. But overall, I really enjoyed this show. And I think the main reason why is because this show is a 12-episode series with an OVA at the end. But the 12th episode in this series, the final arc of this show, if you can call it an arc, it involves our characters preparing for a play that the main three put on. Now, this play is pretty much what hooked me into anime. It just worked so well for me, and I don't know why. It's not like it's insanely well animated. The songs are really good, and I've listened to them ever since. But it's not a crazy good story or anything, but it showed me that animation can be something different. It's not what Disney has put out for 20 years that is the same thing of generic princess or generic main character that has a problem that can just, fairy tales pretty much. This is something that is unique, and it's not just a kid's show. Yeah, it involves kids, but it's not only for kids. You watch modern day Disney shows or Nickelodeon shows, and they just half the time feel like they're designed to talk to 12-year-olds, which is fine. That's an audience that they're trying to relate to. But in the end, if you aren't able to hook the older audience, they're never going to come back and watch this. Now, shows like Gravity Falls or the Star Wars animated shows have done this. Or, you know, now we're finally getting some Marvel shows that are doing this. And then obviously there's tons more that I'm just blanking on right now. But there are a few. But this show for me introduced me to a whole new medium of animation that I was not aware of before this. And yes, it's very generic compared to other shows, and we'll get to them as I go on with this series. But for me, seeing that 12th episode, seeing that it was a slice of life show for 11 episodes, and then all of a sudden, at a drop of a hat, they can make this really good story, or just really good, like, everything just worked for it. And I don't want to get into it because I want you to watch it. I want you to give this show a chance because I do believe it really deserves to not just be the butt of jokes, because I think it really has something to say, especially the movie, which we'll get into eventually. I'm going to do these, all of the shows I've watched, in watch order, and I'm not including the movie in my number one here. So I'm going to keep it short then. What would I rank this show? In the beginning, I probably would have given this 8.5, but as I've watched more, I've realized that there is a lot more to it. So I understand that it is not as good as I originally thought, but I would still give it a solid, like, probably 7.5. I think it does everything right that it set out to do, and it nailed it on creating good characters, a solid storyline that I enjoyed a ton. It is hilarious. It is, if it has memes made about it that have lasted for as long as they have, it just shows you how well the comedic timing of some of these jokes are, and just how well some of these scenes have lasted. For a show like this, that's saying a lot, because there is so many shows in the late 2010s that nobody remembers, and we'll get to some of them, but this one is not one of them. You bring it up, and most likely someone has heard of it, and that's saying something in a massive, overcrowded world of Japanese animation. Being memorable, to me, matters, and we'll get into other shows that have failed that spectacularly. But anyway, before I go, this is all the collection that I have. I can fit it all on one screen. Now, I do have the, this is the Blu-ray set that includes every episode. They also released an edition that included each one separately. I do have volume 1 of that, but whenever this was announced, I just bought this instead. I do have acrylic stands of them, and all 4 Nendroids that are released right now. There's also some pop-up parades coming, which I will get as soon as they are out. But until then, thank you for coming to episode 1 of my anime journey here. We're going to have episode 2 here in a few days, which will be Toradora. So be excited for that. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.